right, so last presentation is from Peter van der Meij. If I could invite Peter up to the stage, please. Peter is a fellow Dutchman, I'm glad to say. So there's a lot of semiconductor expertise actually in the Netherlands, and this is historically come from Philips Electronics, and from that Philips Semiconductors and ASML. So there's a lot of expertise there. And Peter, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mark. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thank you for joining us today. I was just talking about your our background in the Netherlands in the semiconductor space. I suspect your background is from potentially from Philips Semiconductors as well. But like I said, there's a very big ecosystem and infrastructure in the Netherlands around this. A lot has happened for BrainChip recently, Peter, including a very nice announcement last week. So without further ado, I'll hand the floor over to you.
Yes, thank you, Mark. It's really good to get this opportunity to tell you about all the exciting things that are going on at BrainChip. I'm not sure if you can see our slides at the moment. Is that on, Mark? There we are. Yes, so let's go to the next slide. Where are we? There's a button somewhere to click. Here we are. So this is our statement, our disclaimer that says that we did our best to bring you the best possible statements about our company, but that some of the information is reliable on external sources that we cannot verify. You can read it at your leisure when you get our slides. So if we can start with the BrainChip mission statement. BrainChip was started back in 2004 with the objective to build safer, more sophisticated artificial intelligence processors. That's exactly what we have done with the introduction of our Akida 1000, aka 1000. We have accomplished that vision of building a neural processor that is unique. It is firmly based on neuroscience, and it can be very easily configured.
Peter, if I may interrupt you for 1 second, we're getting a lot of comments that your audio is very soft. Is the microphone covered potentially, or could you?
No, the microphone is sitting right in front of me at the moment. It's a USB microphone. Let me see if I can increase its volume.
Maybe just a bit closer to the mic. That could help as well.
That also means I get closer to the screen.
Oh, that's all right.
I'll get really large. Is it better? I got closer to the microphone, so it's yeah. Oops, something fell down. Yes, so with the Akida 1000, we have accomplished our first step in this way, a commercial neuromorphic processor that that is unique in the market. So this component has been recently introduced. We are now building boards with this component and shipping those boards to our early access customers. The component is very unique because it's very low power consumption, extremely low power consumption, which is good for the planet, because if you look at current artificial intelligence in the computing way, where you're computing the outcome, it generates enormous amounts of greenhouse gases. So if you look at the collective data centers of the world, that emit something around 600 megatons of greenhouse gases. And Akida 1000, if you look at a single instance, Akida 1000 is estimated at about 97 to 99% more energy efficient than cloud processing. Or even if you look at GPUs, they are very power hungry, up to 1,000 times more power than Akida is using. So we have also looked at healthcare. We believe that we can make a big difference in the healthcare field, where sensors pick up, for instance, bacteria in blood VOCs in breath and other medical samples, and we can classify those faster and more accurately than any other method that is currently around. And we can learn on the chip. We also look at safer workplaces, where Akida can eliminate the risk in the workplace by monitoring, classifying air quality, automated quality control, visual classification, and tactile sensing. MatorTF is our development platform. MatorTF plugs into TensorFlow. It's easy to use. Anybody who knows how to use TensorFlow will be able to use MatorTF. It's self-contained, it's fast, and it has a very accurate response and an API that's easy to use. So it provides for the on-chip learning and training, and a seamless environment for any developer that understands TensorFlow. So a little bit about the background of BrainChip and what we are doing at the moment. At the moment, we have development centers in 3 places in the world. We are in Perth, in Australia, with a research institute. We have a software development and a testing center in Toulouse, in France. We have chip design and sales and engineering in Southern California, and our corporate headquarters in Sydney. We do the assembly and layout of the chip in Japan. So the current situation of the BrainChip, the share price on the 25th of November was 62 cents, with a market cap of just over $1 billion. We have 1.8 billion shares outstanding, with 1.3 billion in a float, and we, as management, hold just under 20% of the company. We are growing rapidly. We are employing people at the moment, especially in sales and marketing, and we're looking at about 70 people with our, as I mentioned, headquarters in Sydney. This is our management and board. Between the 5 people in the management team, we have something like 180 years of experience. Rob is a sales and marketing guy. He is ex-ARM. Ken, CFO, he is ex-Virgin Galactic. So we're really reaching out into space. Anil is our chip design and chief development officer. Anil must have made at least 100 chips in his life. You know a little bit about my background. This is my 3rd company I have started. The first company in computer graphics, high resolution graphics, back in the 1980s, early 80s. I then went on to teaching at university for a while, and then after that I joined. I created a new company called DCIS, which was later purchased by IISS and later by IBM. All the patents of that company are now in the hands of IBM. And Sean, who just joined us, many years with HP and other large organizations, and truly seasoned executive in sales and marketing and building large companies out of early beginnings, especially in sales and marketing. And that's why we focus on Sean when we look at candidates for CEO. Our board of directors, I'm also part of the board of directors, many years in the semiconductor industry, in the finance area. Jeff, ex-Commonwealth Bank, and Antonio, with many years in the industry as well. So we have a very seasoned team. Also, the people who are working for us are extremely well experienced. Oops, we went one, skipped one. If you're looking at our financial position at present burn rate, BrainChip has sufficient cash for 1 to 2 years. Of course, that burn rate is going to change over these years. We're going to employ more people, but at the same time, we are counting on a explosion in sales. We're looking forward to an explosion in sales of the Akida 1000 chip and its modules, and also the IP. We just signed up, as you may have seen, Megachips, which is a large organization that makes chips for many different user applications. We also finalized the American Depository Receipts that makes it available for US institutional investors, and we have upgraded our listing in the United States to the QX level, which means that investors can, or institutional investors can now invest in BrainChip in the United States. The company ended the previous quarter that we have published in our listing with almost $24 million in cash, or 32 million Australian dollars. That's US dollars. The patent protection is very important. As I said, our technology is very unique. It has been a 16 years development path, so we want to make sure that this technology is protected. And our first patent stems from 2008. We filed that same patent in 2007 in Australia. The patent has been followed up by new patents, and we actually have a number of patent engineers within the company now who are pursuing these patents, with the result that in the last couple of months, a lot of the patents that have been sitting around for a while have been granted, and we have 2 patents that are allowed, patent family 7 and family 9, which will soon be granted. We expect that it will be granted within the next month. We are building out our patent portfolio to go worldwide, as we are marketing the chip and the technology, the IP, worldwide. So therefore, we are applying in all these different countries, and in the next year or so, we will see at least 100 of these patents being filed in different countries and subsequently granted. So if you're looking at our products, the Akida 1000 is the major product, which is the chip, a neuromorphic processor. So it mimics, and I looked it up in the dictionary, it mimics neurobiological architectures present in the nervous system. So it doesn't work like a processor that you find in your laptop. It works like a mini brain. It's very good at recognizing things, recognizing smells, recognizing images, recognizing taste. We have done all these things as examples and made them available to the market. We also have an artificial retina image to spike converter. What the eye is doing, it takes images, converts those images into spikes that then the brain is processing. We're doing something very similar with our this artificial retina image to spike converter. The chip is up to 10 times more energy efficient than any other edge AI processor, except if you're looking at very tiny things that can't be really used for anything, but anything that is in the same class as the BrainChip Akida processor is using at least 10 times more energy, and it's up to 1,000 times more energy efficient than GPUs. We also priced the chip for using handheld solar-powered equipment, so that at the edge you cannot charge thousands of dollars for a chip. So we priced this chip at a very competitive level, somewhere between $15 and $25 in quantities. It's other point is real-time learning. We do real-time learning, which is unique in the market. We can show, we have a video, for instance, where we show a little elephant to the camera, and Akida classifies them. We tell it it's an elephant. We can then show it a picture of an elephant in the wild, and it will recognize the elephant from any angle. This is really unique in the market. Nobody else has been able to do this in a single shot. It learns very much like a child learns. You take a child, you tell it it's an elephant, and for the rest of its life, the child will know what an elephant looks like. You don't have to show it 1,000 examples like you do with current deep learning. The product we're building around Akida, of course, we have MakerTF as the development environment. We also have a USB stick. We have the M2 class insert board and a PCIe board for development as a development kit. We include free sample code with our development suite for visual, sound, odor, vibration, and tactile classification, all with very high accuracy. So in comparison to the rest of the industry, if we're looking at traditional AI versus neuromorphic AI, the power consumption is very high of traditional AI. Neuromorphic AI is very, very low. Learning in traditional AI is expensive and time consuming. It takes weeks to train a network. We can do one-shot real-time learning, which takes milliseconds. Traditional AI needs cloud connectivity, which is Siri, for instance, and Alexa. They send all the information that they receive up to the cloud. It's particularly a problem when you're sending images that can be hacked. In Akida's case, neuromorphic AI is completely independent of the cloud. All the information is processed on the chip itself, and the classification is produced by the chip itself. So it's very secure. Whatever stays within the chip cannot be hacked. So also, if you have Siri or Alexa or any other cloud-based AI, Nest, for instance, it requires an internet connection. Once it hasn't got an internet connection, it doesn't work anymore. And because of the need to transmit information up to the cloud and then get it back as an answer, the latency can be quite high. So here we're looking at the 10 problems that Akida 1000 is solving in the industry. The IoT bandwidth is a problem that is growing. It's if we have 40 billion, as I forecast, 40 billion new units connected to the internet, IoT devices, IoT bandwidth is becoming a serious, internet bandwidth becomes a serious problem with increased latency. Power consumption, if you're looking at CO2 emissions, Akida 1000 extremely energy efficient. Availability, if you're in the middle of a nullarbor, you won't have any internet connection. For instance, with Akida, you don't need internet connection to keep the unit working. So you don't get the message that it needs an internet connection. Training, Akida can be trained very rapidly with one-shot on-chip learning. Personalization, which is a very important thing, for instance, in the car industry, somebody gets into the camera and the Akida can classify who that person is and can learn instantly who that person is if it's a new owner of a car, for instance. Portability, it's small, it's very light. Excuse me. It's very small, it's very light, and it allows AI in portable equipment because it doesn't get hot. It uses no power almost, very little power. So it doesn't get hot, doesn't need any cooling. It can be used in standalone mode. It has an on-chip processor. The on-chip processor's only function is to pre-process data and receive data. The neural fabric is doing all the neural network work. So it's very low cost. They are engineered for low-cost edge applications. It's modular. We can modify the IP very easily to fit the manufacturer's requirements, and IP licenses are available. And it's an easy development environment that is familiar to many different data engineers. So here we talk about the bandwidth problem. 41 billion devices are forecast to be competing for bandwidth because Akida doesn't need any bandwidth. We solve that problem. Data centers are growing with 20% per annum. So by 2030, if we continue going the way we're going today, data centers will consume 30% of global electricity by 2030. So Akida can solve the problem because we get not processing at a data center, we get processing distributed over many different locations and those locations can be powered by battery or solar power. So that's talking about here is the runaway power of AI processing. At the moment, we only have a figure of 2016, which was 416 terawatts. That is about 30% more than the whole United Kingdom. Since 2016, it has been increasing at about 15 to 20%. So today's estimation of CO2 emissions is something like 600 megatons. With the distributed processing, where you have a Akida in every device, you would be far more energy efficient and avoid this problem. So the Akida processor, it has a large number of interfaces on it. It can talk to normal computer equipment. It has this M-class CPU on board for data processing. It has the video frame interface, the artificial retina I talked about. Information from a video camera can be processed into event or spikes, which are then processed on the neural fabric, and you get an output that classifies what is in frame. So we also have an external memory interface. We have multi-chip expansion, so you can put 64 Akidas on a single board. And I already mentioned the on-chip one-shot learning. So it's a very sophisticated device. It's very exciting that we have this device ready at the right time for the right market. Here's the forecast by Tractica. The Tractica forecast between 2018 and 2025. We are in the 2020, looking at the 2022 bar here with 450 million forecast, 450 million ASIC that all could use Akida, the Akida IP, with 700 million accelerator chips that could also be the Akida chip, the Akida 1000. And we see that it increases very rapidly over the years to come. And this is a very exciting slide for us, because this bottom part of the graph is where we operate. In the comparison of Akida to all the other components that are out there, so we have a very well-documented competitive analysis, and this graph comes out of that. The base of Akida 1000, it ticks all the boxes. It's micro to milliwatt power use, it's real-time on-chip learning, it's TensorFlow compatible, you can use it in a standalone mode. We have on-chip convolution, which means that you can look at images and convolutional neural networks. It's available as IP, and it's a very green technology. We're looking at IBM True North, which is an older chip. It's also a test chip. It's not a commercial device like Akida 1000. It checks the first box, but none of the other ones. It's a green technology because it's also low power, although not as low as Akida. Intel Low E2 as well. It checks the first box. It's milliwatt power use. If you want to do learning, you have to program it. It's got its own environment called Lava for learning. They have on chip now an x86 processors, which cannot be very power efficient. They do say that they do convolution, but I think it's being done by the x86, not in hardware. And it's not available as IP. Then there is what I call deep learning accelerators, like the Coral TPU and the NVIDIA Jetson. Those things are not very low power. They're 2 to 5 watts for the TPU, plus you need a CPU next to that. And DLAs are in the range of 5 to 10 watts. They are math chips. They're not running any neural networks. They just perform the multiplications. They are TensorFlow compatible, but they do not check any of the other boxes. They do not do on-chip convolution. You have to do convolution on your CPU. They are not available as IP, and they're green because they use about the same amount of power, for instance, as a data center. So these are our websites and our places where you can find BrainChip on Twitter, LinkedIn, our videos. I encourage you to have a look at our videos. And I thank you for your attention, Mark.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter. So we've got a number of questions coming in.
Yes.
Some of them center around your current partnerships that you've announced previously, as well as the early access program. So let's break that up in two. Can you talk a little bit about the feedback you're getting from your early access program collaborators? And I know that the question that we got out of this is might be hard to answer, but do you have an idea of the percentage of partners or people that are trying this out that could convert to commercial deals?
Customers convert to commercial deals. Of course, it takes a little while for them to get their projects worked out to the point where they are ready for a commercial deal. We're particularly excited about the NASA people who have given us feedback that are very positive feedback about what we're doing, and of course they're getting the latest generation of the chip at the moment, the production chip. Which has been delivered to a number of people in the EAP group. We cannot mention names of EAP customers, unfortunately, because they are under non-disclosure agreements. People do not want to splash what they're working on in their labs out in the market to let everybody know what's going to come next, not until they are ready to do so.
Okay, yeah, so I understand that it's, especially in the semiconductor industry, it's highly competitive, and it's always very sort of hush hush, and it's something that unfortunately the ASX doesn't always understand. But is there anything in general that you can talk about with these partnerships that you have with NASA, Valeo, Magic Eye, Ford, any sort of common denominator that you see in these conversations with them?
Yeah, the common denominator would be that all of these companies are very excited about the technology.
All right, that's clear. A question from Dan about when we can start to see physical devices contain Akida, and I'm assuming this would be commercially. If you can comment a little bit on that.
I'm sorry, I was just reading the question in the sidebar. I've missed it.
Sorry, this is a question about when we can expect some actual commercial products out there using the Akida technology.
Yes, as people are developing with Akida, they need to develop their boards, they need to develop their software, they need to develop, prepare the whole market for these products. I'd say within the next year we will see. I expect to see commercial products that are out there with Akida in it.
Okay, and in terms of revenue, some of the units, the recent batch of chips that have been completed have been distributed to partners. Is there anything you can say about what sort of revenue, maybe not the level of revenue, but if there's something that in the current quarter that you will be reporting on soon? Because I seem to remember there was definitely a commercial, or at least revenues coming from these chips, these initial chips.
Yes, the revenue will be showing up in our 4C. I can't really comment on that at this stage until we are ready to release our 4C at the end of this quarter.
Okay. Regarding the Akida 2000 and the timeline specifically for that one, can you talk a little bit about the development timeline?
Yes, Akida 2000 is very exciting too. We are developing that here in Perth. We have an excellent team here in Perth of highly qualified people who are working on Akida 2000 and Akida 3000. So we're really thinking ahead here. Akida 2000 will be optimized for more complex network architectures, such as LSTMs and transformers. And for a very large part, those simulations of those chips are, at least Akida 2000 is already, the simulation is working already, and we're getting ready to hand this over to engineering. So Akida 3000 will be a cortical network. Cortical networks are based on the way the human cortex works. There's still a lot of open questions about, especially in neuroscience, how that exactly works. So we're building models of the cortex and see how we can apply that to a commercial environment. Because everything we do, of course, even though the science is fascinating, we have to always keep in mind that we are building commercial products.
All right. One interesting question I saw earlier coming from Nathan about the advantage you have in terms of time versus competitors. Previously, you stated 2 to 3 years advantage versus competitors with the Akida 1000 now almost commercially available. Do you still think your timeline or the time advantage is still 2 to 3 years, or has that changed?
Yes, we are working very hard to make sure that we maintain that advantage. So Akida 1000, we estimate to be 2 or 3 years ahead of the market. For instance, we have convolution in hardware, not by a processor. We have real-time learning that nobody else has been able to manage. So we definitely have a 2 or 3 year advantage in Akida 1000 as we are commercializing that product. But to maintain that advantage, we are working on Akida 2000 and 3000. So we stay ahead of the market. With Akida 3000, we're probably about 5 or 6 years ahead at the moment.
All right. Well, last question, Peter, because audio is still apparently not great. What we might do actually is send you the questions so you can come back to us by email, and then we can put them up on the website. But just a last question with the new CEO coming in, Sean. It's very early days, but some questions come in for him, as in how has he gone in the first sort of week, basically?
In the first week, he's extremely eager. He worked over I got questions about the business plan and all and technology and what we're doing over the Thanksgiving weekend. So he's extremely eager to get started. Yeah, we have a great working relationship. I really enjoy working with Sean.
Excellent. All right. Well, Peter, thank you very much for your time. We'll send through those questions to you by email so we can get answers to those. And again, for everyone that's here today, we'll put them on our website.